I'm live. I'm reading out of Scarlet Feathers. It's a book by Joan Grant, Joan Marshall Grant actually. She was a writer, author, very famous in the 70s, 60s. She was born in 1907. And she wrote books about her previous life. She had an amazing historical accuracy, as they used to say. And I loved her, and I've been reading her books for a long time, and I thought this would be a really nice book to read aloud. It's called Scarlet Feather, and it's the story about a tribe. A very old tribe, a very long time ago. And the story is about Piyanah and Raki, who are two children who are growing up like brothers and sisters, but they're not, they're cousins. And mother is showing them way of life, but she's not together with the tribe. She's without a tribe, because of certain happenings, and she is just explaining to the children where they are in a place which is the forbidden place, which is a beautiful like pond. Anyway, there's always danger in being different. Can I try to see them now? When the pool holds the circle of the moon. Here we go on. Side by side, Raki and I lay on the smooth, cold rock, staring down to the troubled water. It was dark, for a cloud had hidden the moon. When it shone clear, I could see that the moment had come. I watched the stick carried round and round by a current. I tried to send my spirit diving down, so that I could tear aside the dark waters which was hiding from me the country beyond the water. Great hunters, please, let me see them, I whispered, over and over again. But the water was only water, driving on and under the force of the fall. You see nothing? It was my mother's voice. Nothing. The dissolution of the words made it difficult not to cry. Nothing, echoed Raki, and I knew he shared my bitter disappointment. Perhaps when you're older you will see them. And I knew mother was desperately trying to believe this might be true. Raki put his hand on her arm. It doesn't really matter, mother. It doesn't really matter if we can't see them, because you have shown us how to believe in them. Piyanah and I would never be able to forget them, even if we wanted to. For every time we thank the great hunters for letting us be together, we shall be remembering the before people and thanking them too for showing us how to be happy. Yes, she said slowly, I had forgotten that. You have each other. I had only them. Later, when we asked mother why the before people had been forgotten, she said, I have told you many times the legend of how the father of the great hunters made the earth in the morning of the years. First he made the rocks, then he made the plants and the trees, and then he made the animals. When earth was nearly ready for man, each pair of animals brought forth a strange cup. The first man and the first woman and the tribes who are descended from them will still honor their first ancestors in their totem animal. But the father of the great hunters had an enemy who is old as the sky. At the dark of the moon he came down to earth. He made treacherous rocks which betray the climber, poisonous fungus and the deathberry, the rattlesnake and the viper. The hornet and the tech fly are children, all his children also, and he made the bat and the carrion crow. These also brought forth men and women. Of all these descendants of the carrion crow, the black feathers are the most fearsome. Many times did the black feathers fight against the children of the great hunters, but always were they vanquished. For the happy people were led on Oriole, whose wings were bright as the sunrise. It sang to them of the morning of the earth. Then the lord of the carrion crows fought with the Oriole, and stole her feathers, and hid his evil in her bright plumage. And the people believed the sorrow bird the first of their enemies, because he came disguised as their protector. The sorrow bird told them that pleasure is only the conquering of pain, and joy the overcoming of sorrow. That freedom comes only through endurance, and courage is born only of fear. So, because they listened to the sorrow bird, they left the quiet valley which had been prepared for them, where the trees were heavy with fruit and the meadows parted by singing waters, for they thought it was wicked for them to live in a place which demanded neither pain nor endurance nor tears. Some of the women suspected that the sorrow bird was evil, but because they loved their men, they followed them into exile. Yet even in the cold lands of the north, they still vanquished the black feathers, for the love between them was stronger than arrows. Then the Lord of the Carrion Crow brought another great evil on earth. He told the sorrow bird to lead the people to a wide plain, where they must first build 2 fires, 100 paces apart. Around the first fire gathered all the men, and round the second all the women, and the people who had once been happy obeyed. Then did the Lord of the Carrion Crow gather up the power of all black clouds, and with it he drove a great cleft into the earth between the fires, a cleft which stretched from horizon to horizon without end and was deep as the black night. Yet still the black feathers could not defeat the people, for across the cleft they spoke of the love between them, and they loved build a bridge over it. Then did the Lord of the Carrion Crow go down into the canyon he had made down into the depth below the earth. And when men and women spoke to each other, he caught the words and twisted these between his fingers so that the words of love was heard as hatred, and unity became the sound of separation. He is still there, the Lord of the Carrion Crow, and only people who love each other, as do you and Raki, need not fear him. The bridge over that canyon is firm under your feet, and though he roars in fury, to you the sound is less than the shrill squeak of a bat. Even if he takes your bridge in his hands and tries to snap it like a dry bone, it is less disturbed than is a rock by the shadow of a dragonfly. Then my mother said, remember always, Raki and Piyanah, that the 2 great enemies of mankind are the sorrow bird and the canyon of the separation. But both are powerless when a man and woman keep the strength of the love between them, for love is stronger even than the Lord of the Carrion Crow. It was nearly 2 years before we again saw the pool of the before people, for Mother had asked us not to go there until she thought we were ready to see the other side of the water. She came with us as she had promised. My father carried her in his arms, for she was dead. He wanted to bury her under the great pine tree, which grew solitary above the encampment. But he listened to Raki and me, this tall remote stranger, and said as it had been her wish, he would give them her body to the pool. Sharp and clear in the vivid moonlight he stood on the high rock that shone with the spray of the fall. My mother's body looked as though it was carved wood, stiff and unyielding, yet it remembered her and could still smile at the things they used to do together, she and her body. Raki's hand was warm and reassuring, yet I knew he trembled as I did. We can't see them, but they are waiting for her, he whispered. All the beautiful people of the before country, and isn't it cold and dark down there? The fruit trees are shining under a kindly sun, and the people have put on their most brilliant tunics to welcome her. She was lonely here, with only us to talk to, and they have been waiting for her since before we were born. I saw the chief's lips moving, but could not hear what he said because of the sound of the fall. He raised up her body on his outstretched hands as though he were offering it to the night sky. Then he knelt and let her rest on the water, still supported by his arms. Gently the current drew her away from him. 3 times she passed us, quiet and serene, as though she were asleep on the breast of the pool. Perhaps the before people were waiting to take her feet in their hands, so to set them on the steps which had led down into their country. For as the center of the pool she raised her body upright, and then we couldn't see her any longer. Did you see them? I whispered to Raki. No, he said, I didn't see them, but there was a light around her before she disappeared. It may have been their sun shining up to her, or perhaps it was only the moon reflected on the water. I shall never be quite sure. So, it's Friday, and this is part 3. The next one is The Choosing. Happy Friday.